Let's move on to training. Now, this is the one that I'm sure people are like dying. Okay, yeah, they're going to tell us exactly how many sets, exactly how many reps. We're probably not going to tell you the exact blueprint because every person's a little bit different in what they need and the body parts they want to get up. But the main thing is you have to get into the habit of training regularly. That is the key with all of your fitnesses, training regularly. And I mentioned the chef's hat before, and there's so many different ways to skin a cat, low carb, high carb, all these other things. Same thing with training. You could go high volume, low volume, but the basic premise is, and I think Skip will agree with me here, big compound movements that stimulate a lot of muscle at once to get you in the gym and out of the gym and back to life, back to your work and back to the family is going to be the most efficient way to transform your body. People will ask me all the time, okay, don't I need more? Is it better if I do more? Well, let me ask you a question. If you had a headache and I gave you 6 Tylenol or I gave you 2 Tylenol, they're both going to get rid of the headache, but one's going to do more damage than the other. So I'd rather you spend more time with your family, at work, being successful outside of the gym, than spending hours in the gym doing junk volume because that's what it'll end up being. Want to add anything to that, Skip?
Yeah,
Anything
no,
with the training?
it's a good point. It's kind of what you put into it. If someone's been working out, let's say they're a little bit older and you've been working out for just a year. All right. You're probably getting more out of what you're doing by showing up every single week, hopefully for a year. Your performance, your knowledge, your execution is so much better now at a year than it was your first few weeks. All right. So if I gave you the same training routine, the same volume, sets, and reps now versus then, you'd get a whole lot different result now that you understand, you know how to push yourself and those type of things. So that's why it's not the routine, it's what the person puts into it. All right. You should know what key things you need to push, but consistency is most important. And here's a thing to remember. It isn't like if you had the perfect training routine that whatever someone convinced you it's the perfect amount of volume. All right. And you did that every single day, every single week consistently for a year, and you're convinced it's the right amount of volume versus one that maybe you're uncertain of. It isn't like one's a 10 and one's a 0. It isn't like there's going to be two dramatically different physiques. Get the information, get with the coach who makes you feel certain. Right. There's always going to be uncertainty during the journey. Nobody's 100% certain, and be consistent with it. Right. That's what's most important, to put your effort into the gym and in your expectations. All right. If you look in the mirror, you can't see the muscle that you think you're earning. Probably has more to do with body fat and what we talked about, nutrition, more than that another training routine. So well, should I do 5 sets or 4 sets or whatever? Is this enough? That's not even where the answer is going to be. So again, I would say even the most ineffective training routine that someone gave you on the internet versus a top-notch one that you'd get, and there's not going to be a huge difference when you're consistent, when you're following up with nutrition. So again, you don't have to thread that needle. So don't use it as an excuse for not moving forward and not moving forward consistently with enough certainty to do it consistently. So mental sustainability is just as much as time sustainability and effort, right? So you do this for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm glad you brought up that point because it brings me into my next thing. So we talked about, the X's and O's and kind of like you should be doing bigger compound movements. But before even that, when you're looking to get into shape and start and begin, we have to work fitness around your life. We don't want fitness to be this big bearing thing that's, oh, I got to work out. No, let's work backwards. You work a 40-hour week, or, in most cases, if you're an entrepreneur, probably more than that. You have a family. How many hours and days can we dedicate to our fitness? Let's say with your schedule, realistically, 3 days a week is what you could fit in. Then that's going to be optimal for you because you're going to be consistent with that. People come to me all the time and they want to start, they're ready, they're good, they're motivated. That motivation tank is on full. And they want to start with 6 days a week training. Yeah, I'm going to work out every day. Well, that doesn't impress me. What impresses me is the person who starts at 3 times a week and stays consistently doing 3 times a week for 3 years, because that person is going to have way better results than the person who starts out at 6 days, gets burnt out by week 2, and doesn't do anything for the remaining weeks. So you have to look at your schedule and realistically what you could fit in. and then work backwards from there, because you have to think with fitness long term. Fitness is almost like growing a plant. And if you're not familiar with, and I'm not a gardener, so I could be totally butchering this, but the bamboo tree, if we plant bamboo seeds, if Skip and I plant bamboo seeds right now, and every day we go, we water it, and we sing to the plants and the seeds to try to get them to sprout, nothing is going to happen until the 5 year mark. After the 5 year mark, the bamboo tree sprouts 90 feet. Like, they grow really quick, but it takes 5 years for that process to happen. Now, if I told you the same thing with your fitness, people get frustrated after 2 weeks of not seeing results. They just start 2 weeks, they don't see anything. This doesn't work, I stop. No. Consistency is going to be the key. Brushing your teeth, the habits, the neural pathways, things that I talked about in the beginning. It's the same thing that you want to implement when it comes to your training. So my long-winded answer to that, look at your schedule. What can you realistically fit in that 1 year from now you will still be doing it, and then work backwards from there. And again, then utilize the principles that we talked about. Big compound movements done with efficiency, over time, are what's going to actually give you the results. And going back to that equation that we talked about, 80% is going to come from your nutrition. I would say about, 20 to, a little less than that percent is going to come from your training. We got to save a little bit of room in there for general activity, but majority of your results are going to come from the nutrition, not from the training, like Skip said. So it's less important, and more people put emphasis on it being so much more important.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And, even if you say, well, I want results faster, 3 days a week, that is sustainable. I get that part. And I know if I do 3 for 3 for the next year, that's better than going, I don't know, 3 for 5, 2 for 5, and being frustrated. I think everybody can understand that concept. But here's the thing you need to understand too. It's just like with work, and a lot of men who they're successful, and they manage a lot of people. And the power of deadlines. You'll become more resourceful, more creative, more time efficient. You'll be smarter when you're forced under a deadline. Believe it or not, those 3 days, because you're forced to do it, you'll learn more, you'll push more, you get 1 more rep, 5 more pounds, just a little bit more consistency, a little bit more attention. You might be more productive in those 3 days. So don't just say, well, I'm going to settle for fewer results because I was told that 3 days is sustainable. No, you might be more productive when you learn how to get the most out of your workout in 3 days than that other person who has 6 days and 2 hours a session to dedicate it, because you know what you're doing because of the power of that deadline.
I love that point, Skip. Excellent point. Beautifully said, because it's very, very true. Skip, I want to actually turn this question to you. Because you've been a successful bodybuilder for so many years. Again, like you said, 6-time national level bodybuilder. But when it comes
champion, not
national
just
champion,
on the national level.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. I know most people have no idea about that, but just jokingly, I earned them. And when I won 6, it isn't like I went 6 for 6. I probably went 6 for 10, 12 years of grueling and came back without them. So anyway, go ahead.
But basically, you've trained hard and heavy for so many years, and people get this all the time, and they have this mentality around the training portion of it where they're like, well, I'm older now, I can't lift heavy. Maybe they're a little bit beat up. Life kind of happens over the years, and this is why things change for you, So I want to talk about that element of the training component of it with, being older, and that whole theory of you can't lift heavy when you're older. I want you to kind of debunk that for everybody and let people know that, well, go ahead. I don't want to spoil it.
Well, look, I'm on the internet. I've been doing this for 33 years, and I was strong. And, Anthony was saying back at 16 years old, you bought some of my VHS tapes or something like that, right? So, you got to stick out on the internet even way back then. And I was strong, so it brought a lot of attention. So mentally, as part of my identity, I'm really strong, all right? And it draws a lot of attention now. But I'll tell you, Anthony's, you said that I'm not even training close to the same amount of weight as I did back in the day. You know what I mean? And I don't care to, and I don't need to for longevity's sake. All right. But it is a lot. You don't have to match me, right? If you can match me, It's not necessary to lift all that weight, but you do need to challenge yourself just a little bit more. And there's other ways, 2.5 more pounds, 5 more pounds. All right. That's heavy for you. 1 more rep, better form, feeling execution, just a little bit more and getting progressively better. It's the key. And heavy is relative, right? If it's pushing you a little past, doesn't matter where you start, you're uh, initiating the muscle building process. And certainly at this age, I mean, muscle preservation is massively important, too. So even if you don't become, it's too old for you to become some giant bodybuilder or whatever, you're going to want all this muscle that 1 more rep or 5 more pounds is doing for you, better form and feeling execution. But you got to challenge yourself. Heavy is relative. All right. And, don't assume you're going to hurt yourself. All right. I can't lift the weight for you. I don't pick the weight for you. I don't even define what heavy is. Just challenge yourself, whatever that means to you. Right.
Yeah, great point. And I'm gonna jump in here quick because I am a national level powerlifter. I haven't competed in a couple of years, but I was actually really, really good at powerlifting. I have close to a 3 times body weight squat. And Skip is talking about heavy is a relative term. If for me, for a set of 5, if I'm doing 550 pounds on squats and you're doing 135 for 5, and we're both at that same level of intensity, that weight is doing the same thing for both of our bodies. So you have to keep that in mind. So it doesn't matter the weight on the bar. The weight on the bar is irrelevant, like Skip said, and I agree with that 1000%. The issue is it's your mind unlocking this next level of thinking. So if you are banged up, maybe you have some injuries from sports or other things that happen to you throughout the years, work around it. But the point is you're still putting in the work. So let's say, for example, you can't squat. I don't know, you have a bum knee, but you find that you could do goblet squats. Well, then you put all that intensity into the goblet squats. So this way you get the most out of it. So it doesn't matter really the X's and O's of the exercise. And you don't have to, like Skip said, copy his routine. But the point is you do have to push yourself, and you can't be afraid to push yourself. And actually, when you push yourself like that, you unlock a new level of health and strength. They did so many studies showing that people who are older, who deadlift heavy, have stronger bones, and it prevents osteoporosis, osteopenia, and all these things. So heavy training is a must. And again, heavy is irrelevant. It's a relative term, but you have to challenge yourself. And that's the key. And it doesn't matter what exercise you do it, as long as you're pushing yourself. So that's what we say on the training component of it. I think we've beat that one up pretty good.